Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. As the Detroit Public Schools await a financial bailout from the state legislature, there have been some changes at the top of the district. Former Detroit bankruptcy judge Stephen Rhodes has been appointed transition manager, and he recently selected a new interim superintendent, Alycia Meriweather. She's a longtime DPS educator, a product of Detroit Public Schools, and a Detroit resident. I'm pleased to have Alycia Meriweather as my guest today. Welcome to American Black Journal.
Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about how you come to be the interim superintendent of this district. Track your career for us.
Well, I often say, people ask me, how long have you been with the Detroit Public Schools? And I say since I was 4 years old in Head Start.
Because you went through the Detroit Public Schools, right?
So I came through Detroit Public Schools, and I always knew I wanted to be a teacher from the time I was a little girl. It's well documented that I used to hold class in the attic with my stuffed animals, and they were excellent students, by the way. But I knew I wanted to teach, and I always knew I wanted to come back to Detroit. So when I finished my undergrad, I came back to Detroit, and I wanted to teach for Detroit Public Schools. I taught for almost 15 years science, middle school. And I absolutely loved every day of teaching. And basically an opportunity came up for me to move into a supervisory position. And I had to really weigh the options heavily because I love teaching really so much. But I realized I could make a bigger difference by helping teachers and the students in the whole district instead of just my 180.
Your
and
school,
so I moved out of the classroom and spent a couple years as a supervisor of middle school science, and then kind of progressed up into director over the Office of Science, and during that time I also became the director of the Detroit Math and Science Center, which is one of 32 in the state. I also took on managing the Detroit Children's Museum and Camp Burt Shirley, which are both two informal education entities that DPS owns and operates. And then ultimately, this last year, I became the executive director of curriculum. So I was overall basically 10 departments, from athletics to world languages, and supervising that.
And so that background really puts you in position to deal with the academic side of things, which is the superintendent's job traditionally. Of course, we talk all the time about DPS, and we intend to talk about governance or money. You really are focused on what are we doing in the classroom.
That is the critical piece. The purpose of a school system, the purpose of a school is to educate children. And so if we're not doing that, and we certainly have some issues that need to be addressed in Detroit Public Schools to be able to do that more effectively. And I think having someone with an academic background, an academic perspective, making decisions, there's going to be hard decisions that have to be made. When you are making them in isolation of academic expertise, I think those decisions become very dangerous. So I'm very thankful to Judge Rhodes for listening. Really, he listened to the community and to the DFT, saying we need an internal person on this transition team, and it needs to be someone with an academic background.
So let's talk about the priorities then that you would have. Interim meaning obviously short term. We don't know quite how short term yet, but what are the things that you think you can get done? So
for clarity, interim means until we get a local school
board. There's a local school board, and then they'll decide.
And they will decide.
And they could decide to keep you, of course, but they could also go out and get someone else.
I would hope that the elected school board would choose the best qualified person to move the district forward. And my job is to transition us to a point that we've put some things in place to keep us moving in the right direction. And so in terms of how long it will be, that depends really on the legislation. There's different plans on the floor. And so my job is really to focus in on academics. Judge Rhodes has made it clear. He obviously is over the finance division. Detroit Public Schools is divided into 4 divisions. There's finances, and then you have academics, talent, and strategy. And Judge Rhodes has actually delegated academics, talent, and strategy under my leadership during this transition time, which is actually a very necessary move, because strategy should never be done in isolation of academics. Academics really can't do things outside of talent. So who are we hiring? Why are we hiring? You know, do we need to hire more music teachers? Do we need to hire more art teachers? Well, those decisions are driven or should be driven by academics. So they're all intertwined. Of course, all of it connects back to money. But so we come back to obviously collaborating, but right now the division of labor is Judge Rhodes is the point person under finances, and then I have academics, talent, and strategy.
And what are the issues that are just waiting there to be resolved that you feel like, okay, I can jump in there and I can solve this right now?
Well, to be honest, I don't know that anything can be solved right now. To be clear, we did not get where we are
overnight,
with the quickness.
No.
So we are not going to get out of here with the quickness. But I do think an unapologetic focus on literacy is one of my main areas of focus, really looking at the pre-K to 2. But that would be helping students that are coming into the pipeline, students who are currently in the system, who are not proficient in reading, writing, speaking, and listening, which are the standards, Common Core state standards. We have to also do some serious intervention and think about how we are grouping students for learning, how we are addressing the deficiencies, because just passing kids through because they're a certain age and that they need to go to a different grade level is not going to solve the problem.
Yeah. Let's talk a little about money. As of right now, we are still scheduled to run out of money in DPS in April 8th. I know that there's some possibility that a $55 million interim funding package will pass before this airs on Sunday. But what happens if we don't get that? What does that mean, running out of money? I'm not sure people really understand.
Well, it means the same thing that it means at your house. When you don't have money,
teachers don't get paid.
Teachers will not get paid. We can't pay for the electricity. We can't pay. I mean, we need $50 million to make it through June 30th.
Right.
And so, and to be clear, the House committee did put forth the bill. It came out of committee.
Yeah.
It is now waiting for approval from the House, and then it has to go to the Senate.
And then it's got to be signed.
Right.
Yeah.
And so for everybody who watched Schoolhouse Rock, they know for a bill, it takes,
right.
it's
How
a process.
A bill becomes a law, right?
So it takes a process.
Yeah.
But if that does not happen, in all seriousness, we know that the legislators go on spring break after next Thursday.
Yeah.
They are out until after April 8th. So action must happen before next Thursday. Yeah. If it does not happen, Judge Rhodes has made it clear he will not allow teachers to come to work. He will shut down the district.
Yeah.
He said in good conscience he cannot ask teachers to work a day past he knows when he can pay them.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will see how that resolves. And as I said, we're taping this earlier in the week. Maybe by Sunday when this airs,
I hope so.
It's all resolved. Let's talk about the academics in DPS. A lot of times I feel like, it's a troubled district. There's a lot of challenges. There are also some things that are going right, and we don't really acknowledge that a whole lot. You got some good news recently that the graduation rate is actually going up. And not insignificantly, right?
It's a significant increase. Not only the increase over the last several years, consistently improving, but we're gaining on the state. So in other words, we're now 2 points away from the state average.
Right.
Now, to be clear, that's not my goal. My goal is not to be even with the state. My goal is 100% graduation.
Right.
And beyond that, 100% graduation with students who are ready
for the next step. Yeah.
And whatever that next step is, whether it's college, career, that we have students who are prepared to enter into that next phase of life. And when they go somewhere, a Detroit Public Schools diploma means something. That's my goal.
Yeah. Let's talk about the return of the school board. How important is that to you, the idea of local control?
Well, as a voting Detroiter, so I'm a lifelong Detroit resident, product of DPS. And I think as a voting Detroiter, having local control is a democratic right.
Yeah.
And so I really do feel very, very strongly that we need to move to an elected school board.
Yeah, and you think that can be done in a way that doesn't disrupt the things, for instance, that you might put in place in the interim? The history here with elected boards has been a challenge. That's not a reason not to have local control, but it does sort of ask something more of us, right?
Well, what I would hope, and the way I've been answering this question, is that I would hope that the work that we do in the interim is such high quality, compelling work that people would not have any choice but to follow through on the plan. So in other words, the reason people change directions is because the direction that's been laid out is either heading us in the wrong way. It's illegal, immoral, unethical. It's something, there's something that's causing that to be a bad idea. I would hope that the work that we do here in the interim would put forth a plan that is a strong enough case for whoever comes next to follow through. Because one of the issues, truthfully, is the changeover and the switching.
This constant sort of, now we're going to try this, and we never give anything enough time, it seems like, to actually take root and make the change that we think it'll have.
The analogy I use is people want a Thanksgiving dinner on microwave time.
Right,
And it doesn't work that way. If you've ever cooked a turkey in the microwave, it just does not work that way. And so you have to give things time. What we know from research is for a systemic change, really it takes 8 to 10 years. And I would argue Detroit Public Schools has never been given.
We've not done anything for 8 to 10 years.
No.
All right, Alycia Meriweather, good luck to you, of course.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll get that funding package and we'll go forward.
I hope so too.
Congratulations.
Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it.
Yes, thanks for being here.